Hi, my name is Sumandeep, and I'm going to talk to you about integrative approaches to sleep. Chances are, if you're watching this, you may be having some trouble sleeping. And the very first thing I want to say, and I want you to kind of keep this in your mind throughout, is sleep is our natural state. So returning to sleep is going to be all right. And I think by the time you're done watching this video, you're going to be able to do that. So it may be that you used to sleep well and you just had an occasional night of difficulty sleeping, but now it's become more common. You toss and turn, you might wake up thinking about things and then not be able to fall back asleep. You may have trouble falling asleep to begin with. There's a lot of variations, and we're going to address those. It may be that you finally fall asleep just as your alarm's going off and now you're groggy and fatigued all day. Or it may be that you sleep through the night but it's not restful, so you're groggy and tired during the day. In this video, I'll probably just scratch the surface, but it's going to give you a good start and a good foundation for approaching your sleep. New research is always emerging, so what I'm going to say right now is true to the best of my knowledge, but it may be changing, and it may change by the time you watch the video. Poor sleep can really affect our lives adversely. It can worsen chronic conditions like heart disease and high blood pressure. It definitely affects your mood. It can affect anxiety and depression. It can lower your immune response, and it can affect your performance the next day. A lot of medications interfere with sleep as well, so you want to review your medications. That's an easy start, and you can talk to your doctor also. And as we're talking about medicine, I'll say that there's a bidirectional relationship between sleep and pain. So if you take medicines for pain, that's something you may want to talk to your doctor about and see if they really are suiting you and if they're okay for your sleep, and also know that as you sleep better, your pain should get better. But you may want to talk about these integrative approaches with your doctor or with an integrative doctor. Now, regarding sleep, there was an interesting study where they had different sets of people, and one group of people was only allowed to sleep 6 hours a night for 2 weeks, and the other group was sleep deprived for 2 nights. And surprisingly, they performed about the same on cognitive tests. The thing that was a little disconcerting was that the group who only slept 6 hours a night for 2 weeks didn't really realize they weren't performing well, so they kind of got accustomed just to poor sleep. And this may kind of apply to you. Maybe you just don't get enough sleep. And so you can almost think if you're chronically getting less than 6 hours a night of sleep, that's kind of like starting your day with a drink of alcohol. So you're already kind of just starting your day behind. And that's also been shown, like in studies, that people who drive, with lack of sleep, it can equate to having a blood alcohol level. And depending on how little sleep, it equates to X blood alcohol level. You may have a medical condition that's contributing to poor sleep. The classic one is chronic obstructive sleep apnea. And if you have this, you snore. Your partner may say, "You snore all night, you keep me up." And even though you sleep well, you're sleepy during the day. So that's kind of the hallmark for that. And if you think you have some of those symptoms, you want to talk to your doctor. And Another medical condition is restless leg syndrome. And in this case, your partner may say, "Hey, you kick me all night long." And this can be associated with iron deficiency, and your doctor can check a ferritin level and an iron level. And if you have this, that's easy to treat with some iron, but also you can do toe tapping, and there's some exercises online that you can look at that describe the toe tapping. There's a video by Anne Marie Chiasson that you can look at. but also just regular exercise really helps with restless leg syndrome. There's narcolepsy and other medical problems, and these are all things you want to discuss with your doctor, and this video is not meant to replace a visit with your doctor. I'm going to talk about a lot of things, and you certainly can implement all of those, and it would be awful if you tried, because that would make you stressed and that would make your sleep worse. But just pick out a few different things that work for you, because sleep is integrative and all the little things add up. So as you start taking away things that are disrupting your sleep, you're going to sleep better. And it may be that you just do a few things and that does the trick, and you'll see which things resonate with you. Try those. Maybe you just make one change and you sleep great, and that would be really awesome. So let's just see what works for you. Later you might hit a little patch where you're having trouble sleeping again, and you might come back to this video and a whole cadre of different things are gonna come out to you, and then those may be the ones you want to add. So just approach this video from the perspective that you're going to find some things that help guide you back to your natural state of resting well. In this section, I'm going to talk about your sleep prescription, and these are the changes you can make in your life. And even though it's not as exciting and fancy as other things, this is really where the gold is. This is where you're going to reap the most benefits. There's three things that can affect your sleep: your drive to sleep, your biological clock, and your mental and physical state. Your physical state are the things that I addressed in the first video, and those are the ones you're going to talk to your doctor about if you think those might be going on. Working on your mental state may in some ways feel like it takes the most effort because you're going to have to make some changes, but this is really where you're going to reap the most benefits. This is really where the gold is. So the first thing I want to talk about regarding your mental state is stress. And just look at yourself and see if you think you're stressed, because what stress does is it raises the neurotransmitters that keep you awake, and it raises the hormones that keep you awake, like norepinephrine and epinephrine and cortisol. So we have a natural inclination to get sleepy in the evening, but if we're stressed all day, then it's going to be hard to get sleepy because those neurotransmitters are elevated. In the daytime, we're supposed to be awake, but in the evening, we're supposed to get sleepy, and a lot of us have lost that balance. If this describes you, you may be the person that feels like you're less sleepy in the day, but you're fatigued, you're just tired. You can also think of it like you're in a state of excessive wakefulness. And some people that have insomnia are kind of driven and intense, you know. And how do you live your day? Are you kind of a go, go, go person and you just live your whole day with intensity? Or are you able to kind of be peaceful and restful in the day? Another thing that goes along with this is people kind of have intense emotions, like they may have a lot of frustration and anger when they're laying in bed and they can't fall back asleep. And if that describes you and you have this mindset, then you want to work on changing it. One of the simple changes you can make is you can just start thinking about being present in the moment if you find yourself kind of wound up or stressed in the day. Like if you're doing the dishes, you can just think about the water on your hands, and you can think about the ground under your feet, and you can think about how the water sounds instead of whatever your mind is racing, you know, to worry about. In bed, it's really effective too if you're kind of having that racing mind. When you're lying down, you can think about the mattress supporting your back and the pillow supporting your head and how your body feels, and you'll just instantly feel yourself calming down. If you want to learn more about this, you can look up mindfulness-based stress reduction, or MBSR, but also you can just think of this as being present, and Eckhart Tolle talks about this a lot in his work, and his book that kind of hinges around this whole principle is called The Power of Now. If that's something that kind of resonates with you, you might want to look that up. There's not that much to being present, but it's just so effective. And I think by the time this video comes out, there will already be a video on the Meta website about mindfulness, and I'm sure it's going to be so beneficial. And a little study about this was where they took 3 sets of people driving a car. And the first set, they had them think about, something stressful that they found stressful. The second set, they had them think about planning their fantasy vacation, just the ultimate best vacation they could ever take. And the third set were just to think about being present, like their hands on their steering wheel, their foot on the accelerator, the sounds of traffic, what they saw, what it smelled like. And those people had the least stress. They were the most content. It wasn't the people planning the fantasy vacation. It was just the people who were present. So it really is effective. It sounds simple, but consider it. And it's an easy thing you can just keep coming back to throughout your day. You don't need any props. You don't need anything. It's just something you can do. You might have other reasons for being hyper alert. You might have something in the domain of anxiety and depression, and these go along with insomnia. It's kind of a chicken and egg thing. They just go hand in hand. And as you tease apart your insomnia, you may really improve those as well. And some of the things I'm going to describe to do for insomnia help anxiety and depression. You might have something called ACEs, which is adverse childhood events, and these really affect people's mood, their emotional state, and of course insomnia. PTS does this as well. That's post-traumatic stress. And if you feel like either of these resonate with you, you might want to see a therapist. You might want to look up more stuff about them online. There's a book called The Body Keeps the Score by Bessel van der Kolk. And you might just want to read the synopsis on that and see if that's something that would benefit you. I think it's a great book. He describes the physiology. He gives examples of people with these states and just really explains how our mind and our body are interconnected. So the first step is acknowledging that you have stress. I think a lot of us don't do that. This is a go society. And you might have stress from the workplace, you might have it from your marriage, financial worries, the list goes on and on. But if you kind of start exploring it and see where your stress is, acknowledge that you have stress, then it's gonna help you to help your emotional state and your sleep. I think in this era, people just keep on keeping on. I'm just going to keep marching forward, stiff upper lip, carry on, and it really doesn't serve us. And I think that the attitude towards this is shifting, and people are starting to think about self-care. It's really almost too easy to find ways to calm yourself, so people just skip it because they think they need something fancy. But you really don't. Another easy thing is breathing. Just thinking about your breath. You can follow it as it goes in and out of your chest. There's great videos online about breathing, and actually this site has a very beneficial video about breathing. Yoga and Tai Chi help calm you. They help lower stress, help improve your mood, help improve sleep. And what you're trying to do is balance your autonomic nervous system. You're trying to elevate your parasympathetic part of your autonomic nervous system, which is the part that helps you rest. And you're trying to slow down your sympathetic part of your nervous system, which is that part that keeps you awake. And then the classic you hear about is the fight, flight, and freeze part of your nervous system. So just try some of these things, like the breathing. And one thing about breathing is, if you're really stressed, you may find it hard to do a breathing exercise, and then that's a little note to you. Uh-oh, I really am stressed. I can't even really take a good deep breath in. I can't take a good breath out. I'm just tight, I'm tense. And that's a little message to you to slow down, that you are stressed. So in the morning, decide what kind of day you're going to have. Say to yourself, you're going to have a kind of day that leads to a normal, restful sleeping state in the evening. So do calming things in the daytime that'll keep your stress hormones and your neurotransmitters down, like yoga, tai chi, meditation, staying present, taking slow, deep breaths. One of my favorites is just focusing on your heart and breathing in for a count of 5 and out for a count of 5. You can even put your hands on your heart because that releases oxytocin and that's calming. And you can think of the word relax or a simple word from your prayers that suits you, or you may think about someone that you love or a pet that you love. Just bring that warm feeling to your heart and you'll find it quite relaxing. There's a product called HeartMath that works with this if you want to buy a device, and it's actually kind of cool. It's biofeedback, and you can see how you're affecting something called your heart rate variability, which is a very calming thing. There's also some nice videos online for a heart center meditation. One I like is by Dr. Anne Marie Chiasson, and you can find it on YouTube or on Dr. Weil's website. One thing I like about it is it's only 6 or 7 minutes, so it's not a big time commitment. So explore, you'll find things. The next thing I want to talk about is exercise. This is really going to improve your sleep drive, and it's just one of the easiest ways to get a good night's sleep. It's also going to lower your stress level. And it doesn't have to be fancy. You definitely do not need to go to the gym. In fact, exercising outside is much better than exercising inside because you're doubling up. You're getting all the benefits of being outside, like getting light in your eyes, which is beneficial to sleeping well, and also there's so many other benefits to being outside, like lowering your stress, improving your immunity. And if you're interested in this, you can look up forest bathing, or the Japanese call it Shinrin Yoku, and they're actually the ones who originated the idea of forest bathing. But just being outside is so helpful. So if you exercise outside, you're getting double the benefit. If you are going to go for a walk outside, don't wear your sunglasses, because letting that light get into your retina really helps send the message to your body that this is the wakeful part of your day. Especially if you're going for an evening walk around 4 to 7, it's going to help you with sleep, and it's going to help your mood. An evening walk after dinner, like about 20 or 30 minutes after dinner, also improves your metabolism of glucose significantly. There's some studies that think it decreases your glycemic load by 30%. But there's definitely an improvement, and especially for people who have type 2 diabetes, but for anybody. So you're going to get weight control, manage your diabetes if you have it, and you're going to get a better night's sleep. So I'm going to repeat that Tai Chi, Qigong, and yoga are really beneficial because they help balance your autonomic nervous system like I talked about before, and they're going to help you find your natural way to sleep. Besides their great exercise, there's some great videos on this site, and the anxiety video has Qigong on it. So check out the videos. As far as vigorous exercise goes, it can actually be awakening, so be cognizant of that. And if you're a person that notices if you really exercise vigorously in the evening, you don't sleep as well, then you may want to exercise earlier in the day. If it doesn't bother you, no problem. Just exercise when it suits you. Sure, there's a beauty to doing a whole class online, but you really, just a few minutes is going to help. You don't have to do a whole hour. You're going to get a benefit even if you do 5 or 10 minutes. Like if you take some work breaks to do a little bit of exercise, you're going to see benefit. There's something called NEAT, N-E-A-T, that you may want to look up. I won't go into that now, but it's about kind of taking breaks and ways to exercise in the day without doing formal exercise. You know, if you work at a desk, just stand up for a little bit, do some yoga or Tai Chi moves. There's a room for a yoga mat in your office. Do you work at home? Can you go out for a little break? Just see what you can do. And that's kind of the beauty, again, of Tai Chi and Qigong and yoga. You don't really need much in the way of props. So you know, especially if you're that stressed out person, you need to take little breaks for a little bit of movement. But you can find exercise that's fun. Dancing is great. Paddleboarding, tennis, camping, whatever you like. Try to do something fun, and you may even want to try to plan a long vacation around exercise. Camping is so beneficial in so many ways. Again, you're outside, or skiing, or just think about, you know, ways you can incorporate exercise in your life on a small scale or on a big scale. So light is another place that it's really easy to make changes. We need light in the daytime. That sends a message to our body to be awake. But in the evening, we need less light to get that message to go to sleep. So getting outside is going to get you that good light in the daytime. Even on a cloudy day, it's a lot brighter outside than it is inside. But if you live in the northern latitude and you live in a city, then you might want to consider getting a light box. You need one that's about 10,000 lux, and that's especially if you think you get kind of like the winter blues, you might get a little seasonal affective disorder. Then this may be something that you use in the morning for 10 or 20 minutes or 30 minutes and get some benefit from. But if you can spend as much time outside as possible, it's going to help. Just think of things you can do outside. Is there a way to do your paperwork out there, take your lunch out there? Just be creative. What we don't need is light in the evening, especially blue light. This suppresses our melatonin, which is one of our hormones that comes to help us sleep. And it's exquisitely sensitive to light. And you know, there just wasn't light in the evenings for our ancestors. Once it got dark, it got dark. They didn't have electricity. So now you have to be cognizant of that and try to dim the lights in your house as evening is coming on. Really dim your devices, or maybe even put your devices away. That would be wonderful. Can you avoid them and minimize time with them? There are things for your devices that can lower blue light, but there's some conflicting data on if that's important. There's something called F-Lux that you can get for your PC. Apple has night shift mode, and these block that blue light, and they're in the warmer tones. And most people find that the warmer tones are easier on your eyes, but just see if it works for you. Some people even like wearing yellow or red glasses in the evening to block that blue light, and they feel like they rest better if they do that. Another big culprit in the light department is your alarm clock in your bedroom. The ones that are the worst are the ones that have that blue background, because that's just generating quite a bit of light. And then the next worst would be the ones that have blue numerals. And the next would be an alarm clock that has that red background. And then one that has red numerals. And the best electric alarm clock would be the one that wasn't in your room. You might just have a battery alarm clock in there. Especially if you're that person who wakes up and looks and says, oh my gosh, it's 3 a.m. and then you're alert and you're awake. In that case, it's really great just not to have that alarm clock in there with those big numbers for you to look at. Or you can put, a lot of them have where you can dim it all the way to where it's off, and that's ideal too. So, like I said, mostly the biggest thing is to dim your lights in the evening and avoid your devices, or have them on the dimmest setting in the evening. And on that topic, if you're going to watch television in the evening or watch something on one of your devices, try to watch a comedy, because watching a drama is about equivalent to drinking a cup of coffee. So you also might want to just consider skipping the news, because watching the news can be stressful as well. I'm going to talk about what to eat. Try to eat a healthy, plant-forward diet, mostly vegetables and fruit. You can look up the Mediterranean diet online. The University of Michigan, Ann Arbor has a great food pyramid called the Healing Foods Pyramid. Dr. Weil has a really good food pyramid on his website called the anti-inflammatory diet. But mostly you're just trying to make vegetables and fruit the foundation of your diet. There is some benefit to eating fish twice a week if you're a fish eater. Fish has omega-3s, and that can help your mood and may help with sleep. Try to eat fish that's low in mercury, like smaller fish like sardines and anchovies. But you can look up online which fish has the highest mercury. It tends to be fish like tuna, because these are bigger fish that eat other fish, so the mercury can accumulate. Shark is really bad. I would not recommend eating that. But you may not want to eat too much fish in terms of doing what's good for the environment and what's sustainable. So just see what you think there. Eating vegetables doesn't have to be fancy. If you're getting carry-out Mexican food, you can just doctor it up a little bit. Put some lettuce on there, some cilantro, some tomatoes, onions, garlic, any vegetables you like. Just add some things. You can just think of ways to add a little bit of extra vegetables to your diet, and you'll just start feeling better and better. Right away you'll notice a difference. Herbs are a great way to get extra phytochemicals, so yeah, that cilantro, parsley, anything like that. They're just packed with vitamins and nutrients. Same thing with fruit. It's full of phytochemicals that are so beneficial in so many ways, so don't be afraid of fruit. There's so much volume in fruit, so much water and fiber, that the sugar gets diluted. So the actual glycemic load of fruit, like for example a watermelon, is just really low because there is all that fiber and volume in there. And if you have fruit with your meal with water, I think you're going to be less likely to have a sweet drink, and you're probably going to be less likely to want something sweet later, because you will have kind of had that sweet tooth satisfied with fruit. But even though fruit and vegetables are loaded with vitamins, sometimes it can be hard to get all your vitamins, so it's fine to take a multivitamin. You can take just a good organic one if you can find one. You can look for the USP seal, which is the United States Pharmacopoeia seal. That means that it's a reputable brand that's been improved by the United States Pharmacopoeia. If you can, try to eat organic, because non-organic food has pesticides in it, and it also may have some glyphosate, like it may have been exposed to Roundup. And pesticides are not so great because they mimic hormones in our body, like endocrine, and you can look up more about this on the Environmental Working Group's website if you're interested. I'll mention that eating late can give you a little heartburn or reflux, and you may not even know that you have it, but it may just be enough to disrupt your sleep, so you may want to eat earlier in the evening. Also, it's kind of hard for your body to digest a lot of food and try to fall asleep at the same time. So I like to try to tell people to eat a bigger breakfast and lunch, and then a lighter dinner, and try not to eat a heavy meal within 3 or 4 hours of going to sleep. So try to finish eating. If you're going to eat heavy, try to finish by 6 or so. On the other hand, if you eat too little, it's hard to make healthy neurotransmitters that help you sleep. So try to eat a healthy diet. And if you are a light eater, then you might want to have a little bit, like a handful of nuts or some crackers or cheese or something at bedtime. I'll take a minute here to talk about your gut microbiome. It's the bacteria in your gut, and if they're happy, you're going to be happy. They really affect your mood. You'll rest better. And just for you to know that most of the serotonin made in your body is made in your gut, so you want a happy gut. Probiotics like yogurt, kimchi, sauerkraut, any fermented food, kombucha, are all helpful to supporting that gut microbiome. And a lot of vegetables are prebiotics, which are the substrate that those bacteria need to be healthy, so eat your vegetables. Okay, so caffeine. You may be a person who can drink a cup of coffee at bedtime, go to sleep, and sleep the night through. But chances are, if you're watching this video, you are not that person. You may notice that coffee is a little bit agitating for you, and just makes you a little bit of hyper. Then you might want to take a little look at coffee. There's a lot of factors here. People metabolize coffee differently. There definitely are those people that can just drink coffee at bedtime and sleep through the night, no problem. But if you're revved up from stress, you're going to be more sensitive to caffeine. And so as you make the stress changes, you may find that your tolerance for coffee improves. But right now, if you're having some trouble, then let's look at coffee. It can be like a positive feedback cycle or a vicious circle, kind of, that you're tired, so you drink coffee, so then you don't sleep as well that night. So then you're tired the next day and you drink coffee and you're kind of in that loop. So the first change you can make is probably to cut out any afternoon caffeine. Coffee, tea, chocolate, these are all methylxanthines, and they all biochemically increase your cyclic AMP, so they are stimulating. So think about if you can just give up that afternoon caffeine source. And then if you're still having trouble sleeping, then you might want to look at the volume of your coffee in the morning and start decreasing it. You don't want to just give it up all the way because you might get a caffeine withdrawal headache, but just see if you can start decreasing the amount of the caffeine in the morning. If you're craving a hot drink, then peppermint is great in the daytime because it's enlivening, and then in the evening you can have something calming, and I'll talk about that in the next section. But if you're really having a lot of trouble sleeping, you might want to look at other stimulants. Sugar is a big one. And this is when I want to mention that we have normal biologic rest and awake cycles. You come up to being alert, your energy dips a little bit, you get more alert, and this goes on throughout the day, as well as the day goes on, your cortisol goes down. That you want to happen because you want to get, less cortisol as you're getting towards sleep in the evening. But that's why you have less energy in the afternoon, the evening. That's the way it should be. So instead of fighting it, can you just take a little break? If you're sitting, then the break might be to stand up and do a little bit of movement. If you've been standing, you might need to sit and rest a little bit. But just and do something restorative instead of like reaching for that donut or something that's going to give you the energy that you think you need. Just kind of be with that moment and let yourself be still for a little instead of fighting it. After lunch you might be a little sleepy because your blood's gone to your gut to digest your food, so there's not as much for your brain. And you may be someone, especially as you get on in years, that a little afternoon nap is perfect for you. It's restorative and you actually sleep better at night because you haven't been pushing yourself and elevating your stress hormones. On the other hand, you may find that a nap keeps you from sleeping well, so just figure out what works for you. Theoretically, the ideal nap is less than 30 minutes, but again, see what works for you. The other thing in that afternoon kind of dip time, when your energy is kind of slowing down, fruit is a great source of energy instead of something pure sugar like candy or cake. Blueberries are great brain food, so just try different fruit and see if that works. This is a time you might want to try some aromatherapy. Peppermint in a diffuser, or you can just have a little bottle of peppermint. That's awakening. Rosemary is awakening, and some studies show it actually helps with memory. So if you're trying to study for a test or something, you can have a little rosemary around. But just start thinking of other things to do to help you when you're having those slowdowns in energy other than reaching for some kind of stimulant. Now, alcohol. A lot of people want that glass of wine in the evening because it helps them wind down. And if you're that person who can have that glass of wine and sleep great, then by all means it's all right. But if you've noticed that you do wake up at some point in the night, then alcohol may be the culprit. Usually you're going to wake up in the wee hours of the morning if it's the fault of the alcohol, and the reason is you're having a physiologic response. Alcohol is a depressant, so your body senses that and it wants to maintain its natural state. So it's going to start compensating for that by raising your cortisol a little, and at some point your alcohol has gone down enough and your cortisol is coming up, and they're going to cross each other, and now you're awake. So if that happens to you, you might want to consider just, experimenting with leaving alcohol out. The other thing about alcohol is you have less restful sleep because it suppresses something called rapid eye movement sleep, and that's REM sleep, and that's when you dream. And there's so many benefits to REM sleep, like that are benefits for your emotional state, mental benefits. It helps your memory, just helps your overall well-being, and it helps you feel rested. So experiment. If you skip the alcohol and sleep better, then that may be what you need to do. But ultimately, as you do the integrative things that I'm talking about and lower your stress, then you may not be as alert, and you can have that alcohol and sleep through the night and still feel rested the next day. You might want to experiment with caffeine in the same way and just see if all of this makes a change in your rest. So just a little moment about Benadryl. It's in a lot of the over-the-counter sleep preparations, and it's just not so great. Everyone thinks because it's over-the-counter it's innocuous, but it's not. It's not a great choice because it's an anticholinergic, and again, it suppresses your rapid eye movement sleep. It has a long half-life, so you can wake up groggy from it. It can kind of hang around the next day and keep you feeling a little groggy. I almost feel that you might be better taking a prescription from your doctor than just trying to medicate yourself with Benadryl. Another thing I would like to talk about is self-care. What do you consider self-care? Do you even think about self-care? It may just mean being kind to yourself and being aware that you're stressed and giving yourself breaks to do some of those moves I talked about, like Tai Chi or yoga or breathing. Massage is a great form of self-care. It's calming, it's relaxing. Some people like acupuncture, and if it works for you, that's great. But think about what's fun for you, what's relaxing for you. Spend a little time to come up with some self-care ideas. It might just mean taking a me day and not doing anything. Turning off your devices maybe during that time. Of course, I want you to get outside if you spend a lot of time inside, because I think that's a form of self-care. But just start thinking in terms of self-care. Another thing that's really beneficial is journaling, especially before bedtime. There's a lot of benefits to journaling. There's a lot of ways to journal. Some people just like to do free writing. Some people like to write what they're worried about, and it really does help with anxiety and stress. It's been documented to help with those. You can write about the things you're worried about so you don't wake up in the middle of the night worrying about them. You can get an agenda, and you can see what you have planned for the next day and kind of look at it, review it, and then tell your brain, hey, I figured it out, so you don't need to wake up worrying about tomorrow. It's all written down. Writing by hand is different than writing digitally, so just see if just writing in a journal helps you. You may have heard of gratitude journals. They're effective. Writing 3 things you're grateful for before you go to sleep is fine, and you may like doing that. Think about trying to go to bed when you're sleepy. Listen to your body. Don't push yourself to watch another show or get some more work done. On the other hand, if you're not sleepy and it's bedtime, create a bedtime ritual. Dim the lights, journal in your agenda, plan your day for tomorrow. Maybe take a hot bath, because cooling down after the bath sends a message to your body it's time to sleep, and it relaxes your muscles. You might do a little restorative yoga, maybe some meditation, and have a hot drink, and then go into a cool, dark bedroom. Think of it as a sanctuary that's just for sleeping. It's nice and neat, and you've cleaned out things that are distracting. Might have some plants in there because plants help clean the air. Some people like having a HEPA filter. You might consider investing in some organic cotton sheets because pesticides are pretty high in cotton. So if you have organic ones, they should be pesticide free. A lot of people like aromatherapy. Some lavender, some rose, or jasmine are calming. You can even have it in a little bottle and put it around the edges of your sheets, or you can take a bath and have some of the aromatherapy oils in your bathtub. If you have to get up a lot to go to the bathroom at night, you might consider drinking a little less liquid in the evening, but it also may be because you're stressed. And even if you do have to get up, as you do these things, you should be able to fall right back to sleep after you go to the restroom, because it's not what wakes us up that keeps us awake. It's actually that you start worrying and thinking about something, and that's what keeps you awake. So in the bedroom, this is a chance to be present. You can kind of feel the cool sheets on your skin and feel the bed supporting you. You can feel the pillows supporting your head, and you can go into something called Yoga Nidra, which is just thinking about each part of your body. You can think about your toes and your feet, and you can even think about the white light of God on your ankles and your calves, and work your way up your body. And if you get to the top and you're not asleep, you can start going back down. This may be the time to do another meditation or prayer that you like. But if none of that is working, then you may want to do a guided meditation. And there's so many guided meditations. You can start the meditation and then put your phone in airplane mode. There's a lot of guided meditations on an app called Insight Timer. There's a person called Shauna Shapiro that has a meditation on there called Restorative Mindfulness Practice that I really love. But you may not want to listen to this at bedtime because there's some bells and chimes. But in general, that would be a great meditation to listen to. I think if you listen to it in the daytime, it'll help calm you and you'll sleep better. But there's great ones for sleep, and you can just explore. There's an app called Health Journeys, and the person who started that, Belle Ruth Naparstak, is really one of the pioneers of guided meditation, and she calls guided meditation the lazy person's meditation, and it's great. There's some wonderful sleep ones on there. I think they have a free 7-day trial, and they also have a free one every day that you could explore. If you've done all these things and you're still awake, then you want to start thinking about something called stimulus control, or CBTI, which is cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia. And the perspective that you want to look at this from is that you want to spend less waking time in bed. You want your mind to stop thinking about bed as a place where you're awake and tossing and turning and thinking, but rather you want your mind to think of it as a place where you're getting some restful sleep. So what do? You get out of bed and you go to a chair, and in dim light you might read something. You might want to have a little snack if you think you're hungry. Try to read a book, not a device, because you don't want that extra light from the device. You might want to take that minute to jot down some things you're worried about, or check your agenda if you didn't do it before you went to bed. Just get things out of your head. And you might have to do it more than once. You might have to, go to bed, and then if you're tossing and turning and you've done a guided meditation, you might have to get out of bed again. But eventually you might just be able to say to your brain, hey, if you don't settle down with this next meditation, we're going to have to get out of bed. It may say, okay, I'll go to sleep. If you're interested in this, there's some great books on cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia. There's therapists that this is all they're interested in, so you might want to seek one out. There's a general book on cognitive behavioral therapy by David Burns called Feeling Good. So you may want to just take a look at that book. But cognitive behavioral therapy really is effective if the bed has become a place where you're just tossing and turning and fretting all night. Now we can talk about supplements and botanicals. Think about these as your allies as you find your natural way to resting well. They're not the solution. And if you're in a state of chronic sleep deprivation, trying to pick one of these is going to be overwhelming, and you won't have the energy to decide which one you want or go to the store or order it. So don't worry about them. Just focus on the self-care and you'll see improvements there, and then you may want to add in a supplement. The first supplement I will talk about is magnesium. I really like it. It's calming, it relaxes your muscles, but some people might find that it makes them need to urinate more in the evening, so you might want to take it a little earlier, like 3 hours before bedtime, or even in the middle of the day to calm down and relax. Most of us are deficient in magnesium, and food is a great source of magnesium. You can look up magnesium-rich foods like beans, nuts, seeds, greens, salmon, corn, almonds, dried fruit, and there's more. And adding these to your diet and being aware of the benefits of those is going to help you. If you want to take a supplement, 200 milligrams is fine. You can take up to 600 a day, but a 200 milligram size tablet is fine. Magnesium glycinate causes less of diarrhea, and that's kind of how you can titrate your magnesium. If you feel like it's making your stools too loose, you need to cut back on how much you're taking. It can lower your blood pressure. So if you're on a blood pressure medication, you want to let your doctor know that you're taking it, and you may need less of your medication. And as you do the integrative things, you might be able to come off your blood pressure medication. Corn and chocolate are relatively high in magnesium, so if you're craving corn chips and chocolate, then that may be a little sign to you that you need some magnesium. So try those other magnesium-rich foods or a supplement. Lavender. This is something that's been used for years and years. It's known to help with stress and anxiety. You can use lavender in aromatherapy. You can take a little bottle and put it on your sheets, in your bathtub, in a diffuser. I grow the plant, so I like to take just a little bit of it and put it in hot water and have it in the evening. You don't want to put too much in because it will taste soapy. But it's quite nice if it's just a little bit. And sometimes I grow lemon balm as well, and I'll add that. Lemon balm is really calming and soothing, and there's studies that show that lemon balm and lavender both help you fall asleep faster, and they help you sleep better. Lemon balm is really easy to grow. It can take over your garden, so you want to put it on the edge, and then it's kind of a restorative thing to go out there and pick some, crush it and smell it. Even the smell is so soothing, and then bring it in and put it in your hot water for your evening tea. Melatonin is something else that people really like to take to help them with sleep. It does increase dreaming, so be aware of that. Don't be surprised if your dreams are much more vivid. There's a lot of medications that suppress melatonin, and then light suppresses our natural melatonin production. And now, of course, we're exposed to a lot more evening light than our ancestors were before the time of electricity, so our natural melatonin doesn't go up in the evening like it should. So it may be all right to take a supplement. Just try it and see what you think. The big thing about melatonin is people take way too much. I think 0.25 to 0.3 milligrams is enough. It lasts about 5 hours, so it's really not one that you want to take again in the middle of the night, because you might wake up feeling groggy, and you might feel groggy throughout the day. But if you take this lower dose that I recommend, which is less than a milligram, you should be just fine. Calcium helps you relax and helps you sleep better. Just make sure you're getting enough, because it really is calming. You can take Tums, or there are calcium magnesium combinations. If you like golden milk at bedtime, that's that hot milk with turmeric. That's a source of calcium, and the turmeric's good for inflammation and will help decrease pain, and you're getting some calcium. Yogurt's another good source, and it's calming in its own right because of the healthy bacteria that are in there. People have great reasons for not wanting to eat dairy, and there's a lot of food sources for calcium that are non-dairy that you can look up online. You want to make sure your vitamin D level is adequate. You can check with your doctor. A level around 20 to 40 is great. You may need extra vitamin D, especially in the winter, especially if you live in northern latitudes. 1,000 to 2,000 should be enough, but you can see what your level is because you don't want it too high. Once your vitamin D gets kind of in the higher range, maybe above 50, 60, 70, you can start having some bone loss. So don't just take it in a cavalier way, and kind of keep that in your mind with all supplements. Just because they're not prescription doesn't mean that they might not have some harmful side effects. So there's no reason to be liberal with them. You can be judicious in your use. There's a lot of other things that you may like, and they're all right. Hops, valerian, chamomile, passion flower, kava. And if they suit you and you like them, I think it's okay. Again, if you have a medical condition, you probably want to talk to your doctor, and they may even consider doing a sleep study. But hopefully the things I've talked about are going to help you shift back to your normal state of sleeping well. If not, you might want to talk to an integrative practitioner who's interested in sleep so you can come up with an individualized plan. If you've had chronic sleep deprivation, you might be so fatigued that you don't think you even have the energy to figure out which of these suggestions you want to try to implement. And if that's you, as I'm doing this conclusion, just kind of pick out a couple of things that you think would be easy, like running a hot bath or taking it easy through the day. These will be a good start. Supplements are your allies. So, as you're going through this transition, just remind yourself our natural inclination is to be awake in the day and become sleepy in the evening, and then go to sleep. And you're going to find your way to this natural homeostasis. Think of yourself as that person who's not controlling your sleep, but finding your way to that natural state. And as you get better at self-care and then implement some of the things, your sleep's going to improve, and you won't be so sensitive to things like your spouse snoring or the dog barking. These things aren't going to bother you so much. So, here's your prescription. It's evening. You've tried to manage your stress. You've gotten outside. You've gotten some light into the back of your eyes. You've done some breathing and exercise. Maybe you danced to your favorite song while you were doing the dishes. Now it's evening. You're curled up with a cup of something warm. Maybe you took a supplement. You might have had some almonds or a little snack, some fruit and cheese. The lights are turned down. Your devices are dimmed to the max. You might have some blue blocker on there, or night shift if that suits you. Or maybe you've just put all your devices away. You had an early light dinner. You watched a comedy if you did want to watch something. You journaled. You looked at your schedule for tomorrow. If you're super tired and you've had chronic sleep deprivation, it's fine to go to bed early. Even if you wake up during the night, you've got that extra buffer time and you've had some restful sleep. Overall, the theory is it's ideal to try to go to bed at the same time every night and to try to sleep 7 or 9 hours. But don't be strict about these things. Don't make hard and fast rules for yourself. Just be gentle with yourself and find what's right for you. You might even need more sleep if you have some kind of illness. You've told your brain it's time to rest. Now maybe you're running a hot bath. You might want to stop off on your way to bed and turn off the Wi-Fi. I think I started to mention earlier that there is starting to be some evidence that cellular signals and the wireless signals affect the calcium channels in our brain, so they may affect our mental function. Now, if you've got teenagers, they might fight you on the Wi-Fi thing. They've got homework to do. They can't have the Wi-Fi off. So just see how that goes. And they're nocturnal by nature. Sometimes it may be one of those houses where you just feel like there's raccoons and possums scrabbling around your kitchen all night. But that's another reason to change your attitude. And just tell yourself that you don't care and you're not going to worry about poor sleep, so you won't be troubled by that. And you might even tell your brain that those teenagers or the neighbor's dog barking or whatever sounds bothering you is actually helping you fall asleep. And you don't care if you walk into a disaster in the kitchen in the morning, and why didn't they just eat their dinner, and what are they doing in there anyways, and how many of them are there, because you'll be rested. None of that'll matter. So now you're walking into that cool, dark bedroom that's a nice sanctuary, and the curtains are drawn. Hopefully there's a minimum of plastics and electronics in there. The first thing you want to do is try to meditate or pray. And if that doesn't work, then you might want to listen to one of the guided meditations that we talked about. Once you start it, then you can put your phone in airplane mode and have it on the dimmest setting you can have it in, of course. And then hopefully drift off to some blissful sleep. But if you do wake up for a moment, you might notice your bladder is full, but go right back to sleep. If you do need to get up and go to the bathroom, that's okay. Just remember, it's not the fact that you needed to get up to go to the restroom that's going to keep you awake. It's if you keep worrying. So just tell your brain that it's time to rest, and once you're rested, you'll do a better job of thinking in the morning, and you'll remember everything you need to remember. And you might need to listen to another guided meditation, but if that doesn't work, you're going to do stimulus control. You're going to go get up to go to that chair with a dim light and read a book. You might have even put like a pink light bulb in there just so the light is even dimmer in that lamp. Might have something warm to drink, and then get back in bed. You may be able to just meditate yourself to sleep or listen to another meditation. Or if you have to, you might have to do stimulus control again. But eventually you're going to go to sleep. And remember that meditating is almost as good as sleeping. A lot of studies have shown that you're almost as rested the next day and function almost as well as if you would have gotten a restful night of sleep. So I hope this overview gave you some relief about stress from sleeping well. If it didn't, then change your perspective. Remember, it's natural for us to fall asleep, and things have occurred to prevent us from being in our natural state, but our body's tendency is to return to that natural state, and you will. Hopefully just making a few small changes like getting outside, getting more natural daylight, avoiding artificial light in the evening will do the trick for you. But if not, make some more changes and you'll find your way to healthy, refreshing, restful, rejuvenating sleep.